Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me begin by thanking the two committees, but I shall begin to thank the distinguished senator from Homa Bay for actually telling us what is going on in this country. Serious fiduciary risk. And fiduciary risk comes about when those who are tasked with the fiduciary responsibility fail to do so. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through the report and I'm ashamed of my own county because I've seen that when it comes to nugatory expenditures are those expenses which could be avoided. Expenses that if you pay your bills on time, you don't have to pay penalties, you don't have to pay interest, you don't have to pay legal fees. We paid a whopping 1.7 billion shillings in terms of nugatory expenditures. Mr. Speaker, if you go to Kajiado County, which shocks me also, is that there is about 11.9 billion which the governor could be collecting from rent arrears and paid rates. Instead of fighting other people, he could have been going to collect that money. Number two, the pending bills. I'm happy that my county has reduced. It has gone down to 763 million, but it's still a lot of money. In Kajiado County, it is over 2.35 billion shillings. When you look at the development budget, it is 1.4 billion shillings that has not been paid to developers. So essentially, nothing is happening. So, Mr. Speaker, the distinguished senator from Homa Bay, the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, has asked us to allow them to go after these rogue governors, to allow them to work with the DPP, to go and scrutinize and look at these expenditures. Mr. Speaker, if we do that as a House, we will be saving this country. We will be saving this country from these nugatory expenditures. We'll be saving these businesses that are not paid when they're supposed to be paid. Pending bills, we'll be looking at issues of fiduciary responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, if you fault or if you do not respect the PFM Act, and you are called, and I know the Kajiado governor was called to appear before the committee, he failed to appear. Instead of focusing and making sure that you're using the money rightly, you are busy politicking. Right now, Mr. Speaker, we want the committee to go after these governors and ensure that even if they have to be jailed, jail them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Joe Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity for me to also be able to say something about this very damning report from the Public Accounts Committee in this House, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I think I want to start by saying that our counties should be able to put their priorities right. That, Mr. Speaker, the issues to do with the community health promoters, the issue to do with salaries for medical staff, Mr. Speaker, things that should be prioritized by the counties. And that is why we spent a lot of time here in the morning trying to see what we can do to see to it that there is even distribution of additional revenue, Mr. Speaker. And we cannot fight that hard to give our counties more cash only for the same to be misappropriated, Mr. Speaker, and most of it actually outrightly stolen by those that operate our counties, Mr. Speaker. It is very sad that there is no rationale in some of the expenditures that these county governments actually incur, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday in the dailies, there was a report of one county that spent 10 million in legal fees to defend a case where the claim was just 1 million Kenya shillings, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I say it beats rational thinking in some of the things that our counties are doing, Mr. Speaker, especially with legal fees. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about an accounted expenditure in our counties, that people have spent money without accounting for it, that is outright theft. And I think I would also want to beseech this House to allow the Public Accounts Committee to also employ the services of EACC to be able to see that these criminal offenses, because it's criminal, it's outright theft, that, Mr. Speaker, legal action is taken against these counties that are expending money in that careless manner, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pending bills is a cancer that has been eating all our counties and indeed also the national government. That, Mr. Speaker, that is why there is a low circulation of money in the economy, because those that have these bills, Mr. Speaker, have borrowed loans, have taken loans which they are not able to pay. If these pending bills are cleared, Mr. Speaker, then everybody would smile all the way to the bank and to their homes, Mr. Speaker, because there would be money in the economy. And this is something then again that we need to arrest. But talking of Murang'a, where I come from, Mr. Speaker, I think I would want to talk about the quality of work that counties do, because there is a report of a septic tank in a place in Maragua Level 4 Hospital that was completed, Mr. Speaker, but that was leaking immediately, attracting even claims from neighbors, Mr. Speaker. Madhaya Mafai dispensary in Gatanga constituency.
Last stream, but not the least, and Tamandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first I want to thank the committee for doing a very thorough job on this matter, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the work of this committee, and Honorable Speaker, only on 3 areas. On the CAIPS, Honorable Speaker, where the counties and national government are partnering, we have counties who are given money by national government to the tune of around 116 million. For the last 1.5 years, Honorable Speaker, they have not been able to move, and those projects are not on course. Honorable Speaker, some counties are doing very well, and I agree with my colleague, Honorable Senators, that those counties that their CAIPs are doing well must now initiate the process of looking for investors and the products to be value added on those county industrial parks, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the matter of RLMF, Honorable Speaker, which is a very emotive issue, and I know as a House, we have outstanding matters with the National Assembly, Honorable Speaker. I would wish to say, Honorable Speaker, whereas I support counties getting their share of RLMF as was and national government receiving their bid, Honorable Speaker, I want to persuade this House that the 7 shillings extra that has been set aside to finance or to secure some credit to enable national government complete the ongoing roads that we are going to stall, Honorable Speaker. I want to persuade this House, having been a governor, Honorable Speaker, that a majority of the roads that were done under low volume seal, Honorable Speaker, are actually county roads. And if those county roads are going to stall because this money is going to be shared, Honorable Speaker, I think as a country we may get a small share of that money, but we should not get the overall value of getting those roads done. I would wish to persuade my colleagues that the 7 shillings over and above that has been raised be actually used for that model, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the issue of fiduciary risks that we have seen in counties, Honorable Speaker, we want to thank the committee for actually exposing the areas where funds are being lost. Honorable Speaker, I'm surprised that in my own county of Uasin Gishu, there is a variance in financial statements to the tune of 55,167,000. That is not even surprising, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the unsupported expenditure on fuel, oil, and lubricants amounting to 177,043,731. Honorable Speaker, I'm aware of this matter. In fact, vehicles that are not serviceable are being fueled, and that is the reason why they could not provide the work tickets. And I'm sure, Honorable Speaker, because I know even one employee of one of the petrol stations where fuel was being consumed.
Thank you, Senator Mandago. I now call upon the mover to reply.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and thank all the senators who have contributed. As we approve 52 billion in additional allocations to counties, we must demand for accountability for the 87 billion that the Auditor General has flagged. And I want to assure the House that if the motion is adopted, that we shall walk to the counties with the EACC, with the DCI, and all the relevant agencies that are required to ensure that there is value for money and there is accountability. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 66.3, I rise to request that putting of the question on this motion be deferred until the conclusion of debate on other motions in the order paper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But you did not pronounce yourself that you reply. You went ahead to request for the...
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Then also avowed what you have requested. So the putting of the question has been scheduled. So let's go to the next order.
Order number 10, motion. Reports of the Select Committee on County Public Accounts on the consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the 47 county assemblies for the financial year 2023-2024.
Chair, CPAC, County Public Accounts Committee, in the same spirit, maybe you'll save some time again as you move, and also the seconder to take less time.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion that the Senate adopts the report of the Select Committee on County Public Accounts on the consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements for Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Tana River, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Isiolo, Meru, Tharaka Nithi, Embu, Kitui, Machakos, Makueni, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, Turkana, West Pokot, Samburu, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi, Baringo, Laikipia, Nakuru, Narok, Kajiado, Kericho, Bomet, Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, Busia, Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Nyamira, and Nairobi City County Assemblies for the financial year 2023-2024, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 27th of March 2025, and approves the recommendations of the Committee on the financial statements of the respective county assemblies for the financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, I wish to be very brief in moving this motion. In the financial year under review, 47 county assemblies were audited. 45 of them had a qualified opinion, and 2 had adverse opinions. Embarrassingly, Mr. Speaker, the 2 county assemblies that had adverse opinions were Homa Bay County Assembly and Migori County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, we did not ask the county assemblies to appear before the committee, but we gave them an opportunity to submit their written responses. Their responses were verified by the Office of the Auditor General. My committee sat down and reviewed the supporting annexures and adopted the report that has been laid before the House. Mr. Speaker, you will notice that the fiduciary risks report excludes the county assemblies. The key issues that came out of the conversations or the audit reports from county assemblies, one was on asset management. Most of the county assemblies have not acquired ownership of the properties and the premises where the county assemblies sit. Mr. Speaker, there is one county assembly that has been successful in that, not in this financial year, but in the past. I think it is Narok County Assembly, which has been able to get title to the assembly premises. So this is a matter that has been flagged by the Auditor General over the years. Some county assemblies are still paying salaries outside the IPPD system, and Mr. Speaker, that is symptomatic of fraud, because when you pay outside the system, you're basically paying ghosts. Mr. Speaker, of importance to the Finance Committee is that a number of county assemblies are receiving more than 7% of a county's revenue. In regulation, under the PFM county government regulations, we had put a threshold of 7%. But, Mr. Speaker, over the years, through the various instruments that the Senate passes, the division of revenue, additional allocations, we have revised the ceilings to an effect where the average disbursement to county assemblies today is about 12%, way above the 7%. The Senate needs to look at this. The Finance Committee needs to look at this. If the 7% in regulation is not sufficient, then let us amend the regulation. Mr. Speaker, we have seen weak governance in a number of county assemblies, county assembly service boards that are non-functional. Mr. Speaker, we need to tighten the law, because what some county assemblies are doing, for them to control the finances in the county assembly, they impeach the speaker And then after impeaching the speaker, they appoint a temporary speaker who will come from members, and then the temporary speaker takes over as a chair of the County Assembly Service Board, notwithstanding the fact that every County Assembly Service Board has a vice chair who ought to take over in the absence of a substantive speaker. And it is a matter that really is about good governance, but perhaps it needs to be captured in law to avoid abuse. Mr. Speaker, one matter that cuts across all county assemblies is their continued contribution to the County Assemblies Forum and the Society of Clerks at the table. We have no objection when it comes to the assemblies deciding which professional bodies or which society they should subscribe to. But these are public funds. If they are going to be transmitted to any other entity, that entity should be legal, and that entity should be auditable. And Mr. Speaker, that is a problem we have had with CAF. We are not saying that CAF is illegal. CAF is a proper association. The only problem is the continued remittance of money to CAF. And Mr. Speaker, when you quantify it, 5 million per county assembly by 47 counties is a lot of money. Fortunately, this House has already considered the necessary legislation to rectify this. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have seen cases of pending bills in County Assembly, and that is contained in the detailed report, as well as matters of outstanding interest held by members of County Assembly. We, therefore, request the House. None of the assemblies appeared before the committee. They submitted written responses. The committee cannot vouch for the authenticity of the records submitted. We request the House to allow the committee to summon the entities that had adverse opinions and to invite the accounting officers of the other entities to ensure that the issues raised by the Auditor General are closed, and to allow the committee to liaise with other relevant stakeholders to ensure that illegalities and irregularities identified are addressed lawfully, and perhaps even to direct a special audit of the entities with adverse opinions. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and I will ask a member of my committee who has not spoken, maybe Senator Cherargei, to quickly second.
Senator Samson Chalage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and thank you, Chair. I think for the county assemblies, it's a straightforward matter, because county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, sir, concentrate more on recurrent expenditure as opposed to development expenditure. And while we, as a committee, as the Chair said, we need these entities to appear to get the second bite to the cherry and be able to explain. The Speaker, for example, in Nandi County Assembly, the county assembly chambers is yet to be complete. So you can find in one financial year they are requesting only for maybe development of cafeteria, walling. Mr. Speaker, you remember there was an issue of county deputy, the speaker's residence, Mr. Speaker. So I think those are majorly things that, but on the issue of expenses in terms of recurrent and accountability, the issues of interest, Mr. Speaker, that still becomes a problem because accountability mechanisms within the county assemblies, Mr. Speaker. And looking both at the county executive in terms of financial statements and also through the county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, there is a similarity. Although, Mr. Speaker, you remember, and I think the MCA should be aware of this, that the Senate has already passed the law that gave them financial autonomy. I think when they will have CRF account within the Treasury, it will allow them, Mr. Speaker, to own the process. Because as of now, they depend on CCM Treasury to get their allocation. But that one does not absolve them from their accountability. And I think they must appear, Mr. Speaker, and looking, and I want to challenge counties in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, that they must do their oversight work as it should be. For example, in Nandi County, Mr. Speaker, under Governor Sang is the headquarters of corruption in Western Hemisphere of this world. Because looking at in the previous financial year, Mr. Speaker, there was a scandal of the payroll, and I know members know, Mr. Speaker, and that is why in that scandal, even close relatives of the governor were found in the payroll scandal, Mr. Speaker. And yet the SEC came with rat matters. They took computers. No one has been arrested, Mr. Speaker, including a close consecutive of the governor, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, even as you are aware, Mr. Speaker, there are many stall projects and the county like car hire services. Mr. Speaker, Governor Sang moves around with a car hire service of 42.8 million. There is no car number, No one knows where it is hired from.